Both the Cincinnati Bengals and the Dallas Cowboys have some insanely poor management structures. Look, the Bengals is worse. I'll say that first off. Although the Cowboys are super annoying, they're not as bad as the Bengals when it comes to management. But the Cowboys are getting pretty close. Look, my issue, we'll kind of touch on the Cowboys because I've ad nauseum already gone over the Bengals. But Cowboys, Jerry Jones said, and he doesn't want to pay Micah Parsons. And he is saying, look, just because right now he's not going to play, is at least what it looks like until he gets paid. And Jerry Jones said, well, even if I pay him, he might not play. And everyone's like, what does that mean? He's like, well, he might get injured. Well, he's getting injured as an employee for you. Like, he's getting injured at work. It's not like Micah Parsons is doing something crazy. I mean, he's not like cliff jumping or something. He's getting injured at work. I mean, that's kind of how the NFL works. It's a very violent game, and they're going to try to generate a lot of revenue for you, and they might get injured in the process. And he did this with Dak. He did this with CeeDee Lamb, where he talked a lot of smack publicly and then ended up paying them after everyone else was paid. Once everyone else, I mean every other quarterback and every other wide receiver who was eligible for a contract, he waited for everyone else to be signed so the market would get in. When you got players of that caliber of a CeeDee Lamb, who is a top 5 receiver, of a Micah Parsons, who's a top 5 pass rusher, as a Dak, who's a top 10 quarterbacks get a little more lenience, but when those guys are available to sign, they are demanding to be the highest paid by $1. And the issue is you want to sign. Now, if the guy hasn't proven he's good, I understand. If you know for a fact you're going to sign them, you want to sign them as early as possible. When you wait for other quarterbacks to be signed, you allow for other teams, some of which are in your division, in your conference, to dictate the market. They are paying players who in a lot of instances are better than your guy first, which means you have to pay more than them. You have to match that and pay a little bit more to an inferior player. Now, you're not going to tell the player, you're not going to go to CeeDee Lamb and say, yeah, I don't think you're as good as Justin Jefferson or as good as Jamar Chase. You just sign them first. And when you sign them first, you say, look, you're the highest paid player. And they're like, no player can ever be offended when you make them the highest paid at their position. They can't really complain that much. If you make a player the highest paid, it's like, what are they really going to say? They're going to say thank you and sign. So he once again pays the most and alienates the player for who knows what reason. I don't know. I don't know what the charade is. Look, if you're not going to sign him, you trade him. You get some draft capital and you end the charade. The worst thing about this is he is going to sign Micah Parsons, I assume, because he's already done this twice. And all that's going to happen is he's going to pay Micah Parsons more money. Micah Parsons is going to miss a lot of camp and preseason games. And they have a new head coach, which exacerbates the issue. And he's just going to alienate Micah Parsons. Even when he gets signed, there's still a little bit of like, why didn't you want to sign me? It's like the wife that gets proposed to after 11 years of dating. It's like, okay, well, thank you, but why are you so unsure? To some degree, even when this gets called over and fixed, it's never really fixed because you're setting the precedent that it is, at the end of the day, this is a business. Everyone gets that. But you never want it to feel like that. You want it to feel like we're going to compensate you, we're going to take care of you, and you're going to be loyal to us. That's kind of the dynamic that you're looking for. And that kind of builds that nice team family atmosphere. Now, with the Bengals, they do the same thing. And it's maddening. I mean, they've done it with Joe Burrow. They waited and then had to overpay Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Now, personally, I would not have paid T. Higgins. I don't think it's great roster construction to have all that money in a wide receiver number 2. I think the fact that when you pay a wide receiver number 1, the amount you paid Chase, you were expecting him to draw so much attention that any wide receiver number 2 would be good. So I don't think it makes that much sense. But regardless, I would have traded him and gotten something back and avoided the whole charade of we're going to pay you, we want you, but not really, and we're not sure, and we're going to wait, and you might hold out, and we're not. All that, I would have just traded him. and gotten something back. Anyways, he came out, Mike Brown, the Bengals owner, who it is kind of ironic that the Bengals are one of the least valuable franchises in the NFL. So obviously he's not, it'd be one thing when Jerry Jones does it because the Cowboys are a super valuable franchise. Now, is all of that because of him? Not really. A good chunk of it is just luck, but nonetheless, Jerry Jones has some room to talk and some room to kind of be an asshole. Mike Brown does not. Mike Brown is in charge of one of the least valuable NFL teams in the league. One of the least valuable. With 0 Super Bowls, I might add. And really nothing to show for everything. I mean, but look, what the statement I was getting at was he came out a couple days ago and said, look, I want to sign him, but he needs to accept my terms. And, on face value, that's fair. Mike Brown has demands, and Shamar Stewart has. And I'm not referencing the Trey Hendrickson contract issue. I'm referencing the Shamar Stewart contract issue. It is crazy that they've already had 4 major contract disputes in one offseason, 2 of which got resolved, 2 of which look like they are going to be unresolved. So that's first things first. He told Shamar Stewart, he said, look, buddy, you need to accept my terms of the contract. And to summarize it for anyone who's not super interested in all the details, rookie contracts are on a set scale. He got drafted 17th overall in the first round. The set scale for 2025 draft was 4 years, $18 million. Fully guaranteed. There's no bonuses for anything. There's a signing bonus, but there are no bonuses for sacks. There's nothing. You sign it, you get all the money. It doesn't matter about performance. It doesn't matter about any of that. That's what happens when you draft a guy at that draft slot. Now, Mike Brown said, actually, brother, I don't really want to... I drafted you. I thought you were worth this contract, which the NFL and the NFL union came together and agreed upon. I don't really like you that much, so I'm going to maneuver the contract a little bit and say that this contract is not fully guaranteed. Now, the sneaky thing that Mike Brown has done because you'll see a lot of bootlickers, if you go in any comment section, especially on Facebook, you'll see a lot of older people, or just anyone in general, but specifically older people who will say, man, Mike Brown said that the only reason you don't want to sign this is because if you get in jail, because that happens all the time, NFL players are just consistently getting arrested for their entirety of their contract. Henry Ruggs is the only... I mean, NFL players are not going to jail in high numbers, but he said, the only reason I'm doing this is because if you get in trouble, he's calling it the dumbass tax. If you get in trouble, I don't want to pay you. And listen, I understand that. I think that's fair. I wouldn't want to pay an employee who isn't even available for me. I totally understand that. The issue is that's not what he's putting in the contract. What he's putting in the contract is saying that at any point, for any reason, not for if he goes to jail, not for if he fails a drug test, for any reason, he can say, I am no longer paying you. And that's the issue, is Mike Brown is, number one, lying. That's my first issue with it. And number two, he's negotiating, and he's saying, and the way that the NFL things, the rookie contracts work, is no one negotiates. They just sign because there is nothing to negotiate. Why can only the employers negotiate? Because imagine for a second, for any of you saying, he wants to add that in, why not just sign it? Imagine Shamar Stewart came out and said, I understand that every rookie before me and every rookie after me will get paid based upon what the NFL union decided 10 years ago. I'm going to negotiate this. And actually, I know it's a 4-year deal. I only want to do a 1-year deal, and I want to be a free agent after that. And everybody would look at him and be like, dude, are you stupid? This has been agreed to. And when you enter the draft, you accept the terms that you were owned, your football rights are owned for 4 years by this team at a set rate. Everyone and every single person would say, Are you serious, bro? Why are you trying to alter the contract? Just accept what's given to you, bro. And I think that's fair because when a union, an employer agrees to terms, why all of a sudden now the employer and then the employee is all of a sudden, oh, actually we're going to negotiate. That's not really how it works. So the Bengals, it's a complete dumpster fire. Trey Hendrickson is their best defender on a terrible defense, so they badly need him. It looks like he's not playing. And Shamar Stewart, who they drafted to force, the irony is insane. The reason why they drafted Shamar Stewart is, number one, they have a bad defense, so they need all the help they can get. Number two, the reasoning was they thought that Shamar Stewart would put pressure on Trey Hendrickson to force Trey Hendrickson to sign for less money than he's worth. Well, what happened was Shamar Stewart, because they also messed with his contract, Shamar Stewart said, actually, I'm also not signing. So now it makes Trey Hendrickson even more important, but it also makes Shamar Stewart even more important because they used the first-round draft pick on him, and they also don't have Trey Hendrickson. So the Bengals are idiots.